Wonderful. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another segment of AEC+tech Talks. These talks are organized by AEC+tech, a platform and community established to help you stay updated and engage with the latest tools and technologies within the building industry. Today, we are joined by three amazing panelists who are all design experts and now have ventured into the exciting realm of AI. We are going to hear their stories and learn about their work and their process. This event will be recorded and saved on AEC+tech YouTube channel. If you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to post them in our LinkedIn or YouTube chat box, and we will discuss them in the Q&A portion of this talk at the end. I'm going to briefly introduce each of our fabulous speakers before their presentation, and then we'll let them talk more about themselves and their work. We're going to start by Hassan. So Hassan, welcome. Wonderful to have you with us. So born and raised in Egypt, Hassan was always drawn to the world of design and creativity. With a natural curiosity about how things worked and a passion for exploring new ideas, he embarked on a journey of self-discovery that led him to Southern California, where he now resides. With over 13 years of experience in architecture, computational design, furniture design, construction, and generative design, Hassan has become a respected figure in the arts and design community. He's recognized for his unique approach to architecture and contemporary technology with historical architectural elements. His work reflects his beliefs in the philosophy of architecture and the importance of exploring a new visual language for geometry that can reveal deeper insights into our built environment. I'm sure you've seen his eye-catching, gorgeous AI-generated work and architecture. So grateful to have you with us, Hassan. With that, I'll let you take over and share with us your wonderful work.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can you hear me well?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, let me start by sharing my screen.
Sure.
Okay. Let me know when you can see it.
Yep, I can see your screen.
You can see my presenter screen, I guess. Now you can see the whole presentation?
Yes, yep.
Okay, awesome. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. This is my second AEC Tech event. The first one was in person, I guess 2 months ago, I guess. It was in Los Angeles. And yeah, now it's like my very first one online with you, and I'm really excited to be here. I guess I have like a 15-minute talk. I'll try to make it shorter. The title that I put is like In Pursuit of Visual Meaning, and it's very interesting because this is the first title of my very first talk about AI and architecture about last year, and now a year later I couldn't find a more relevant topic. So basically that's what I'm here for. My work is I guess most times you can say about my work that it's not really related to architecture, it's more related toward art. I think my work is more related to architectural philosophy, so there's no direct application of what I'm trying to do, although I'm trying sometimes, but mainly I'm really interested in exploring AI in a very philosophical way from an architectural perspective. A little about me. As we said before, I worked in so many different topics over the course of 13 years. My background in architecture graduated from Alexandria School of Architecture in 2010. Since then, I worked in exhibition design, furniture, construction, so many things, generative arts, but I always really liked computational design, and that's what I try to apply in whatever topic that I was kind of jumping to. But I guess I was really, the reason why, or at least I'm realizing now, the reason why I'm keeping on jumping from one topic to another is that I'm really interested in the visual language, and I'm really trying to understand or find new meanings, or at least try to understand what I like and what I don't like, and should I like it or not, basically, from an aesthetical point of view or a philosophical point of view. In 2019, I came here to the United States, and I started as a computational design in construction with Martin Pro's company. I was mainly using our team was using computational design tools to solve problems in a very simple way. I can't really talk about the project that I was working on at the time, but it is a very interesting project, and it required a whole team of computational designers from various backgrounds who are sharing architectural background, basically, but they're experiences varied between automotive design, robotics, furniture, manufacturing, among many other things. And we were mainly entitled to oversee the engineering, the construction, the fabrication, and the installation of some parts of the project. But starting from summer of 2022, I've devoted most of my time to explore diffusion models explicitly to create architectural concepts and explore architectural philosophies. This eventually led me to quit my job in construction earlier this year and dedicate 100% of my time to start my own art and design practice. Perhaps my main motive was to understand why do I work in architecture in the first place and why I work in construction at the time, and how the global architectural scene has transformed into what it is today, for good or bad. These models were like these diffusion models were like for me they were like a fresh canvas where I can finally explore ideas and concepts very quickly away from my traditional burdens that my daily job had enforced on me, which is like structure, physics, budget, etc. Right now, this is actually most of the project I'm working on. Excuse me if this is not a very pretty slide. I decided to put that last minute, just like to show you what AI has kind of uh, is actually driving me to. So right now, although like my work is more related to architecture, using architectural elements, now I have projects in different aspects around like basically any visual art that you can think of. So, mean education. Apart from education, I also worked a little bit in fashion, product design, architecture, music industry, movies, exhibitions, trying to sell my NFTs, not being very successful at it at the points, or prints. But like the thing is, like now it's not actually, it's like architectural is driving everything else in my life. And that's is all because of using AI. Um, I think, in my opinion, art is considered or could be considered the most influential aspect in the architectural history, where it drove research or even capital or geopolitics to make us build what we build right now. So, if we argue that now the most prevalent style is the post-digital architecture, you can tell that like the most influential person was Zaha Hadid, and Zaha Hadid herself, she was inspired. She took her concepts from art, from abstract art that was developed back in like the early 1900s, and you can and after that like later in the past 2 or 3 decades, you can see now these buildings are being materialized, and after that you can see a whole branch of architects are following her lead, and now like for example like the project that I'm showing on the bottom right for like the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. It's actually not 2014. It's still under process. It's still they're still working on it. But like for example, this is actually what's driving the industry. Um, these are new mediums. Like if we're talking about AI diffusion models, these are new mediums, and with it comes new processes. These processes were often changing over the course of years and years, where designers or architects or artists had to perfect their techniques to show their visions. But that's now changing as the tools themselves are changing dramatically by the minute, enforcing artists and creators to adapt to their new techniques, while on the other hand opens wide doors for new meanings of innovations. So, for example, this is like a series that I've been working on over the past year, and although I didn't have the technicalities that I wanted to do with it, like starting August of 2022, you can see the results are changing over time until right now. This is an artistic series called Architectural Beings, and it will be on display in September in a museum in Taiwan, probably yeah next month, but it's still ongoing. I have no idea why I'm doing it, but I think it's again it's some form of like architectural expression. As designers and architects, we always believe that it's better to share a visualization of our ideas than to speak about it. This is often because we invest so much time and effort trying to make meaningful connections between our inherent knowledge and our research to help to see our thoughts or visualize our thoughts. But with AI, it's not like that. The model is constantly trained to make those meaningful connections. And it's better for you to describe your thoughts and then visualize them. So this is a series that one of my earliest series that I worked on last year. At that point, the models were not as good as today. I'm talking about Midjourney or Stable Diffusion. They were not producing a good images as of today, and it was really hard to incorporate different materials or different ideas into the architectural concepts. And I don't know. I'm really happy with this, and these were all generated from like a simple prompt, if you would say, and that's shows like a good application of architecture that most architects are using right now is for visualization. Another technique that I really like to use quite often is like form finding through animation, and that's something that you can create using AI tools. You can control your cameras, and while you control your cameras and the movement of your cameras, new forms will emerge. Especially if you input like another element on a new element to that's not really common to use in the architectural practice, like coral reefs. Another application, because right now we still don't have text to 3D yet, or at least we don't have a very coherent one. A lot of people talking about one that we will come soon that we can use as designers or architects instead of like generating all the images. So this is like OpenE. This was developed by OpenAI. It's a small plugin, and it enables the transform, or like it's basically a text to a point cloud or like image to point cloud generator. So so this model was generated using like on the left, these two images were generated using Midjourney, and then it was transformed using AI to point cloud, and then they were imported into Grasshopper on the right side, where there's a morphology between the two different shapes, which is again like the forms that are generated, like the point cloud forms that are generated from OpenE is not really. It's very rough and it's not very usable. It needs a lot of. I mean, it's not very usable for me, at least right now. Um, one of the most important applications is using diffusion models as a way to understand the past and how architecture heritage is being interpreted through documentation, which most often is a colonial one. It's a great way to see history as it's being written. For me, this has actually started as a way to understand my own heritage and culture from both personal and professional point of view, which eventually turned into much bigger and more dangerous questions. That's the beauty of about architecture and art. While architecture is all about problem solving through asking questions, art is all about having more questions, which each question you ask. In art, there are no right or wrong answers, always uncertainty. And I come to believe that the current architectural scene is missing that uncertainty, as being so sure about what we build has often left us more unsure. Which brings the question of context and beauty. How has modernism changed our aesthetics? What's good or bad? Can you, like, if you look at the images or the videos on the right side, which is beautiful? Is it more beautiful on the right side or on the left side? In this age of individuality and globalization, understanding why something is beautiful from a personal perspective is something that's most of the utmost importance for creators from every kind. Is there, even if you're like a social media content creator or a movie maker or a master builder or a master planner, you need to understand what's aesthetics and what is beautiful. Perhaps this story is more important than the global aesthetics, a fantastical story that is a mix between identity, history, and modernity through applying the intangible to architecture. It's something that only a handful of architects have ever achieved through their career, because architecture is simply not a hobby and is often driven towards technicalities that took over personal visions, which led most architects around the world ending up not knowing anything about architecture other than what Zaha Hadid, Anthony Gaudi, or BRK Angeles and their incredible buildings, for example. Of course, the work of the Western architecture over the past century is marvelous, but the status quo of globalization has marginalized any other styles which could introduce history or personal identity. Perhaps AI can help us learn from our history and reestablish these aesthetics in new ways that merge with our contemporary understanding of beauty and efficiency. But do we understand the history ourselves? Or perhaps it could inform how to design our own products. Ultimately, I see these AI tools as an extension to our creative abilities, and it would be such a waste to use these tools to reiterate what's already there. That would be like shooting a fly using a cannon. There's a vast intangible field of ideas out there which we yet to reach its gates. But to go there, we have to be brave and cynical, looking at what we build with an eye, ever criticizing eye of why we build what we build, and question our own ideas, which is leading us to our future of our built environment. So for now, my process is all about looking for questions rather than answers, really. And although the flags and existential risks, AI seems the ultimate tool to run through this field of new. ideas. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Hassan. Such a refreshing, beautiful presentation.
Thank you.
So yeah, we'll get back to you. I'm sure audience and I have a couple of questions about your work. So at the end, we'll get back to you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So our next great speaker is Andre. So I'm going to briefly introduce you, Andre, and then we'll hand it to you. So Andre is the CEO and co-founder of SketchPro.ai, the AI co-pilot for architecture and design. At SketchPro, he oversees company strategy, marketing, and sales. Prior to SketchPro, Andre was a founding engineer at Meme.ai, where he worked on applied AI and worked closely with the founders of Meme on product engineering and design. Andre received his Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering and MS in Computer Science from Stanford University. Wonderful to have you with us, and please tell us about what you guys are building at SketchPro.
Thank you so much for the intro, Nicknaz, and thanks, Hassan, for that wonderful presentation. It's really exciting to be here. Just 3 months ago, I started SketchPro with two of my best friends, and we've got a long way, and we've got a really cool presentation to show all of you on what we're building at SketchPro. So let me share screen here. Great. Is screen sharing? Is that good?
Yes, it's working.
Perfect. So again, to reiterate, my name is Andre. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SketchPro.ai, and we're building the AI assistant for architecture and design. So in today's presentation, I'm going to give a brief history of AI for architecture and design. Then for those that aren't familiar, I'll go through an overview of the architectural design process. Then we'll give you a sneak preview of what's to come with SketchPro and some of the current applications from our customers today with SketchPro. So a brief history on AI, really. So AI has been around, for decades. Since the 1950s and 60s, researchers have been researching how to give intelligence to computers. But in the last 2 years, really, this concept of generative AI has become very, very popular, right? And the word generative comes from the fact that it's creating or generating new media and content. And this really started in 2021 when OpenAI released their DALL-E model, which DALL-E takes text and creates images from that text. And then about a year later, in 2022, OpenAI released their second version of DALL-E, which was creating even more powerful and realistic images. A couple of months later, we had Midjourney, right, which Hassan also described, which was creating, even more realistic images, and has come really to the forefront of image generation AI, right? And then, of course, we had ChatGPT, which was starting to write documentation and was really the first, accessible AI to hundreds of millions of people globally. But there hasn't really been an AI that's been focused on the architectural and design use case. So, that's kind of where we see SketchPro coming in on what's next. And to give an overview too on how do we interact with these AI models today. So one interacts with stuff like Midjourney and DALL-E through the concept of prompting. Prompting are descriptions with details on what you want, right? So in this case, I actually generated this on Midjourney yesterday using, the complex prompt here, where it's long descriptions. You're adding adjectives like photorealistic, highly detailed 4K, right? But the reality is, prompting is hard, right? Especially for an architect or a designer. It's really hard to describe in words what your vision in your head is and explain that to clients. Nonetheless, there's definitely something useful here. And about a year ago when this technology came out, my co-founders and I started experimenting and thought, there's definitely something special here where we can augment the designer and really help bring their vision to life. So now let's take a step back and talk about what the architectural design process looks like for those that aren't familiar. So there's 4 main stages in the design process. The first is very conceptual. Here, architects, designers will create hand-drawn sketches, they'll create mood boards of different materials, and they'll look at existing works for inspiration. Second is the planning phase. We take these initial concepts and start to create 2D floor plans and 2D drawings of what this space is going to look like. Third comes the modeling phase. How do we take these 2D drawings and start to build spaces in 3D and start to give a more accurate representation with dimensions of what the space is going to be? And then finally comes the rendering stage, right? Rendering is where we take these 3D models, start to add textures, lighting, and start to make this feel very real. So we zoom in on the rendering phase. It's something interesting that we discovered when we were talking to architects about the design process, where renders are an immensely helpful tool to both communicate and sell design, right? But renders can cost thousands of dollars to make and take weeks to produce. right? In fact, a single architecture firm may pay more than tens of thousands of dollars in rendering costs annually, right? And here we actually have a screenshot of standard pricing packages for Rendering Studio with a 2-week turnaround, with a standard price of $5,000, and every modification to the render, including changing the color, changing the lighting, and changing the facade, costing hundreds of dollars to produce. So oftentimes, although rendering is super helpful, it's prohibitively expensive and takes too long for a lot of architecture firms and for every single idea or project that you want to develop. So what is SketchPro, and where does SketchPro come in today? SketchPro is a new design paradigm. We're taking a process that normally takes months from concept all the way to render and bringing that process down to minutes. And in particular, we're starting with the rendering aspect. How can we allow people to not just render at the very end of the design process, but really render at any stage, right? SketchPro is more than a design paradigm, it's your design partner, right? Today, we're focused on instant AI renderings where you tell SketchPro what you want to see in the render. And what's useful about SketchPro, it's not just one render you can create, you can render over and over again in your own unique style. Now, though we're starting with renderings, it's definitely not where SketchPro finishes. SketchPro is your co-pilot throughout the whole design process, taking you from an idea to renders, 3D models, floor plans, and elevations in minutes instead of months, right? So let's take a look at what SketchPro, a preview of what SketchPro can do today. Here's a screen recording of a SketchPro demo that we were showing customer where, SketchPro works by taking an input design. Here, let me make this full screen. This can be as simple as a hand-drawn sketch to as complex as a 3D model. Today, we'll be rendering a kitchen from a hand-drawn sketch. We upload our sketch of the kitchen, and then we interact with SketchPro through the instructions. Here, the instructions are plain English and exactly what you want to see. Not only is SketchPro taking in instructions, it's also making different suggestions based on your rendering style for previous projects that you've done. So here we're going to take SketchPro's suggestion for a modern kitchen with dark hardwood floors from the initial sketch. There's some other things we can control like the creativity, the time of day, and the context. And we can add so much more detail here. We hit generate, and you can see from that initial sketch, we've created a render of what this kitchen could look like. And SketchPro is not only showing us one, but multiple different renders and variations of the kitchen. And that's not all you can do with SketchPro. Now let's use SketchPro's Smart Select tool to select the floor and change the material to visualize different materials on here. We select the walnut wood floor, and then we hit render. A few seconds later, SketchPro has now transformed that same render with a brand new material that you're able to show your client, right? Not only that, SketchPro is suggesting different variations here on the bottom. Now, no kitchen would be complete without a dining room table. Let's just tell SketchPro in our own words to add that. We use a selection tool, select the area where we want the dining room table, and then we just tell SketchPro, add one. We hit render. A few seconds later, SketchPro will create a dining room table in the same style as the kitchen to match the aesthetic. Now, as we mentioned, SketchPro is not just one render. We can visualize multiple different styles for our client as well. So let's just tell SketchPro to change this to a mid-century modern kitchen. We type that in, we hit render, and SketchPro is showing us different variations of that exact same kitchen in different styles. We can look at the variations on the bottom here as well and explore what SketchPro has to offer. And what's really useful about SketchPro is not that you just create the renders. Now let's say the client really likes what they're seeing, and now they want to know where they can buy different objects that appear in the render. Let's use SketchPro's AI search tool to highlight different objects in the renders and see where we can find the exact match, for example, for this chair. We see on the right-hand side here, SketchPro is taking that visual match and show us where we can get similar chairs for the client. We can do the same thing with the stove hood and see where we can buy the stove hood in different locations. And so this is just the tip of the iceberg on what SketchPro can do today. We started just 3 months ago, and there's so much more we want to build and give our customers. Right back here, let's look at what SketchPro's applications have been like with our existing customers today. So I want to do a customer spotlight for one of our first customers, Topcat Architecture. Topcat is a small design firm in New Zealand, and they do single-family residential homes. Usually, they would wait anywhere from a week to a month for their renders. With SketchPro, they can take their original Revit model and use SketchPro to create renderings like the one on the right in 30 seconds. We're also piloting SketchPro for education. Here I am demoing SketchPro to 50 university students at Tecnológico de Monterrey, Latin America's top university, and demoing this to 50 university architecture students. And what we're helping the students is to visualize different ideas and explore different design avenues for their projects. We've also had people using SketchPro for product design. Here we have a furniture designer taking sketches, different lightings in different environments for that chair that he's designing for his clients. We're also exploring SketchPro for real estate, where we help real estate agents take photographs of their listings and virtually stage and renovate them to show their clients what that property could look like were they to buy it. And although there's many different applications for SketchPro, our vision is very simple. Our vision is that every physical space will be designed and built with the use of SketchPro. And I'm not alone on this journey. We have an all-star team, myself, my co-founders, Julian and Cesar, and our head interior designer, Denise, who also happens to be my younger sister. We're backed by some of the world's best investors from Neo, OpenAI, and we come from top universities. And finally, we've partnered with NVIDIA on using their research on AI and graphics to make our AI models and renders even more powerful. And we'd love to connect with all of you. We have our waitlist is open, so join thousands of other people requesting early access to our private beta today at SketchPro.ai. Please get in touch with us. Our email is hello@sketchpro.ai. We're very responsive. And finally, follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok, where we're showing updates and updates to our models in our application. I'll leave you with one final thought that we always tell our customers, which is with SketchPro.ai, if you can dream it, then you can see it. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Andre. What a great tool. So much potential, so much power. Awesome. Thanks. So our next speaker is Al. Al, welcome. Great to have you with us. So I'm going to introduce you briefly. Al Dram is an entrepreneur and architect, leading the Drams architect and construction since 2018. With over 3,000 architectural projects under his belt, the San Francisco Bay area. He also has a role as vice chair of the planning commission in Emeryville and heads the AI Design Technology Committee. Currently undertaking a PhD in computational architecture at the European Graduate School. Al spearheads Drams Tech and Blueprint AI, innovating solutions for the AEC industry. Great, Al. Please feel free to share your screen and tell us more about your work.
Perfect. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the previous presentations. This is amazing. I feel like I'm living in the future. This is very exciting for architecture. And yeah, so my name is Al. Many people call me AI these days because the way we write Al, and I get used to it. It's a good marketing too. Um, so I started to being teacher. So I was a full-time academic before moving to US. I've taught in a couple of countries, including back home. I'm Iranian from Iran, Istanbul, Denmark. And when I moved here, I decided to start doing practice, and I get used to understanding what is capitalism and architects and engineers and teaching. I find out like it's better that I get into more practice to make more money. So I started my firm back in 2018. I was solo founder. I didn't have any partner, but we grew bigger. We get into 15 people. On all of these companies I'm sharing, we are hiring. I'm more than happy to receive resumes and portfolio. I try to review myself and get back to you. So with our Drams architects, we done all type of projects from single family house to very complex mixed use, public and private projects. We are certified in both in federal and state level. We also getting our certification for LBE for San Francisco. Um, and over 3,000 projects completed. And after I was doing architecture, so many people come back to me, hey, why don't you build it for us? So we got our construction license back in 2021 and started another firm called Drams Construction to hand a couple of projects that we are doing to do the construction. And after doing this, with my background in technology, I came out and living in San Francisco leads people to understand what is a startup and how they can make money with the technology idea. We started Drams Tech back in 2020 with my partner, and we built a full CRM and marketplace for doing all of the sales workflow and also finding projects there. and architects and engineers are welcome to join, sign up. They can get projects from this platform. And about 8 months ago, after seeing these generative AI ideas and power that we were not able to do this stuff about a year ago. Now our hands are open. We can see how generative AI is blooming. We started with Blueprints AI, which I'm going to explain it more later. And on all of those we are hiring, you're welcome to apply. We come back to architects. So this is a nice meme I saw many years ago, that how people think about architects. And the most important thing that is kind of sad for people who are doing practice, not academia, most of their time is spent on detailed drawings and solving the building department, building code, and drafting. Basically, most architecture designers and architects spend their time on construction documents, which is the last phase of the design. Which the way Nicknas put this program together is very nice, because the first portion was very schematic, then it gets to design part, and our part is more construction documentation. And with generative AI, as other speakers mentioned, and everybody, most people know about it, the AI is really good at creation, which this is something new. Like 5 years ago, people wouldn't think that a computer can be creative and create stuff, and that so okay, human can create, AI can help to do very flat tasks. But past 2-3 years with Midjourney and Dolly and all of these generative AI products, we see that the AI is very good at creating from text and kind of imagination. AI is good as for making something personal, and with the power of AI, you can just type in what you want, which make it accessible for everybody. Um, for example, if I want to write something, maybe this is not my first language, I can just put some idea and make it somehow as a professionally written format. At least for myself, it makes myself way easier to interact with other people. AI is good as learning complex patterns and is very cost effective. The question that I listen and hear from many people is, what happened to our job? Are we losing our job? Are we don't need any architects anymore? What happens to my role? And the good news is that AI creates more job opportunity. Maybe the cost of architecture comes lower, and we can spend more time on design portion. Because this process is faster, more people will hire more architects. So I think we will see different type of work, less drafting, less spending time, and more creative work, which we sign up for. We went to school to design, not to be drafters. Um, Architects spend their time on three phases. One is planning and programming, that comes and say, okay, well, how many bedrooms we have, how many units we have, and then we plan how this building gonna located, or how it's gonna be look like. Then is a design portion, which gets to more details. It shows how the building exactly look like, how is the interior gonna be, and the last phase is construction documents, which is detailed drawings and a lot of notes. It should comply with the local code and building code. And at least in my firm, we spend 10% on planning programming, 20% design, which is sad, and 70% of our time goes toward the construction documentation. And I have a demo of Blueprints AI to show what we are doing. I'm not sure if you can see it now. But let me see. Okay, I should open better screen. Do you see it now? So at Blueprints AI, we made a platform, I call it, that it has a LLM portion that you can naturally type in it and request what you need to have in that property location. So we get some basic information, which is the planning code through the APIs from.
Sorry, Al. Sorry, I got disconnected. Oh, we can't see your screen now. Let's
You
see.
cannot see it? Oh no.
Hold on.
uh,
Okay, no, we can see it now. Perfect.
okay, so you're gonna go back from beginning. Sorry.
Oh,
Um, so we made something that users can just type in naturally and say, okay, we need a 4 bedroom, 4 bathroom in this address. And when we type this address, our software comes and get all of those planning information. Okay, this is a lot size. This is the minimum, maximum height we can have, or how many minimum parking we need for that location. And by studying those planning code, comes and generate some construction document drawings, which is easily be manipulated and changed by just typing again. So if I continue the video, as you can see, the kitchen here is closed and the user asking for opening the kitchen. And everything happens in 3D format, which is nice, is all BIM model. So all of the changes gonna apply to elevations and model. So while we were, the user were typing in, we generated this model. And the fun part is this portion. This is not just the only design, as we are more focused on creating, generating these construction documents. These construction documents takes forever, at least 3 months to generate this. And we are getting this process of putting the construction documents from 3-4 months for a single family house to 3 to 4 days. We're claiming the process is going to be 50 times faster, and it's not 100% done. As most people know, Gen AI needs a lot of training to be perfect. So we made the process easier for architects. 80% of their work is finished, and they can export the file to softwares that they used to use, like Revit or AutoCAD, or some people use Rhino, Archicad, and SketchUp, and they can take it from there. We go back to slides. Do you see my screen?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can
So
see.
that was about the Blueprints AI. We are accessible on our website. Everybody can and welcome to join our wait list. We have thousands of people on the wait list, and we are doing cohorts. So every month we bring 10 to 50 more architects to try. Architects, engineers, homeowners, everybody are welcome to join. Our software is aimed for architects at this moment, but our future plan is to bring this to the hand of homeowners and business owners too. My LinkedIn is Aldram, and this was my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Al. Amazing work, all of you. And it's so cool that you are all covering like different phases of the project. Your work are all like complementing each other. Can you tell us more about your workflow in terms of maybe not too technical, but like Hassan, if you can tell us about like all the tools and solutions that you use in your process, and Andrea and Al, if you can tell us more about like how your software works exactly. So specifically architects that you work with, or if you're working with any contractor. So how does it work? Do they like upload something like a CAD file or Revit file, and how the process looks like? Maybe we can start by maybe we can start by the more specific question, the like technicality, but not too technical, not too much detail, but just like an overview of like how your process looks like, and then we'll get into the second question, and then we can go by the same order. Hassan, if you don't mind going first, and then Andrea and Al next.
Yeah, sure. So my process is not very architectural. It's a pretty artistic one actually. So I keep jumping around from like basically whatever tool that I'm using. And this actually, I think I inherited that from my work as a furniture designer or as a generative artist before using AI. So I like before that I mainly use like the platform that I would use would be, I guess, like maybe Rhino and Grasshopper, and then turn to SketchUp basically for visualization or maybe like showing documents, and then obviously AutoCAD for like fabrication files. For AI, it's really messy, I guess. But like it's depending on like if I'm working like generating images, like basically either for clients or for an artwork, or if it's an animation. Basically, for images, I'm using Midjourney and Stable Diffusion. These are the main tools that I'm using. For animation, I'm using Stable Diffusion, and there's a tool that's called Warp Fusion, which basically is Stable Diffusion, but it's kind of a little bit different. It generates more consistent animation. However, it's very, very oriented around characters, so it's you get really successful results if you trying to generate probably like Harrison Ford belly dancing, for example, like very very weird things. I don't know. I don't really like how it's being used, but I think there's a lot of potential of using it. But it's really hard to use it like in a different way. That's kind of a challenge for now. So basically, yeah, that's overall process that I'm working with.
Awesome, great. Thank you. Thanks. So, Andre,
Yeah, so the question is about the workflow and how people
yes,
interact with SketchPro.
yeah,
Yeah, so we really are designing SketchPro to feel like the assistant, right? And like the analogy we use is, imagine having your junior architect, your intern at your disposal, right? What would you tell the intern to do? And that's kind of the experience we're creating within SketchPro, where you're talking to SketchPro like it was your assistant, right? And currently the workflow is people will take images from their designs. These can be the hand-drawn sketch that we showed, or even upload images from Revit or SketchUp directly into SketchPro, all on our web-based platform. So I think that's kind of where we also differentiate a bit. Is a lot of these existing softwares where on the architect's computer, they have to, in fact, to run rendering software like V-Ray or Lumion, usually you have to have a separate computer just to run those rendering softwares. In our case, all that happens on our servers and our compute. So it's as simple as logging into SketchPro's website as if you were logging into YouTube or Facebook or any other website. So it's kind of a completely web-based tool in that way. People upload their designs and they're able to interact with this, digitally. On our roadmap is building integrations directly into Revit, directly into SketchUp, and meeting these architects where they are. But for the meantime, we found success with our early customers on just being super flexible. I mean, we've had customers use this on their iPad as well. So it's really kind of just flexible in the medium there. And yeah, and then as we kind of expand more, it's really exploring these different mediums, and maybe even integrating into Blueprints AI and being their AI rendering aspect for their documents or something, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration amongst the different startups that happen here. So that's why it's really exciting to be building in the space.
yeah, definitely. And then your users tell SketchPro like what style they want their rendering to be, like what time of the day, all the settings that we have on like V-Ray and some of these like rendering tools. So they tell SketchPro, right, like what they
Yeah,
want.
exactly. And it's even more flexible in that if you can just describe what you want, or even, we're actually building ways to upload style references. So you can even show SketchPro, this is the style that I want, right?
Cool.
Without even having to describe that, right? So it's in a way even more flexible than this existing rendering software, because, AI is able to take simple descriptions or simple styles and then kind of fuse them and transform them into the different spaces that you're designing. Exactly.
Yeah, super interesting. Perfect. Thank you, Al.
Yeah, so I kind of like continue what Andre was saying and insists on the how fast his software is. The thing that we used to do rendering took days
Yeah.
to model and render, and you need to have a like $4,000 or $5,000 computer to render those. And with Sketchpro, you do like seconds. Like this is mind blowing. But on our part, on Blueprints AI, we are also web-based SaaS model, which means that anybody with access to internet, with any device that can connect to internet, can use our software. Mobile phone, tablets, any Mac. Many people can say, "Oh, can we use this on Mac?" Yes, it's web-based. Anything opens the browser can use it. The input can be a simple text, which it can be very natural, like just typing what the user wants on that location. At this moment, we are focused on single-family new construction, but in our roadmap is to add commercial projects and also tenant improvements and remodels. Um, and the other input that user can have at this moment, what we have is a Revit model. The user can upload the Revit model and make the changes that they want and revisions they want. And at this moment, the export that we have is AutoCAD, Revit, SketchUp, and Rhino, and PDF format. So we make it somehow that the architect comes and makes something and they export something that whatever they're comfortable with, they don't need to change their workflow or learn our software. We explore this a lot to make it something that is our device, but I find out like architects don't like to learn new softwares as easy as possible, like a
Yeah,
couple of clicks and some typing. So that's how Blueprints AI is working right
perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. And then, yeah, second question is about adoption. How do you think AI is going to affect the architecture and the future of practice? How long is it going to take? Is it already happening? Is it going to happen in 5 years? Is it going to slowly happen in, like, I don't know, 10 years or something? So, Hassan, can you go first, please?
Yeah, so I'm the least technical here. I'm very abstract in my work, but from what I've seen and from the people that I'm talking to, it's already being widely adapted, but it's being adapted like in a very special niche or very small niche. I think in practice, as a design practice, if you want to adapt to using AI in a deeper way, like probably like what Al is doing right now, you need to have like this background about AI. Just like you can't just go in and use Midjourney or use like any technical tool and
Yeah,
like train it on your data. For example, you have to have your own R&D firm basically, or at least the knowledge. But I know like big firms like, I don't know, like probably like Norman Foster or Thomas Hathaway, they're already in their back doors and their kitchens, they're already working on something and working on their own models to generate their own architectural styles in a very efficient way, maybe probably just like a combination between all our three works combined, probably, I guess. But I think the problem with that is like this is a very powerful technology, but again, it's for art, it's available for everyone. I think for architecture it won't be, because it's just not as easy to train AI models on architectural aesthetics. So yeah, from the technical part, maybe you can train it on producing documents, maybe blueprints, that makes sense. But from aesthetics, it's much harder because you have to train your model on these aesthetics, and to train them, you need to have a high fidelity, probably 3D models to use their data and then train them. And while this process is hard enough, it's also harder to obtain these models unless you're a very big firm. So I expect, like, I have a little bit of a dystopian, I don't know, vision of the future of architecture, where architecture will be controlled by big companies with big R&D divisions that they can use for their at their disposals, and the models won't be democratized. Maybe Autodesk will build a big model, for example. But again, I'm talking about like creating the Revit model before you put it into Al's application. But
yeah,
that's, I think, yeah, that will be very problematic also for the young architects, because these like mainly any young architects, as they start their job, they're basically doing blueprints, or they are like, like doing on like documentation technical tools. But now, as you take that away from them, big firms won't need that many young architects, and you'll be left. So instead, like a big firm, instead of hiring like 100 young architects, you only need two or three, and they will need to know a little bit of machine learning. So the rest of them, what they can do, basically nothing, because they don't have the architectural knowledge that they can build their models. So they don't have the money to build their own models, basically, and they don't have the network to get clients. And I think that will be a little bit problematic. But that's my
yeah,
opinion.
yep, yep. Makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, it's super interesting, the adoption of AI in this field, right? Like, for the last like decade or so, the software really has not changed that much, right? And that's why at SketchPro we're like reimagining the design paradigm. So it's interesting though. Whenever I talk to customers, everyone's very curious about AI, right? Especially, with ChatGPT and all this stuff, people are wanting to use this, but don't really know how. So I think, not only is the technology super powerful, it has to be very easy to use, right? So I think the champions in this space make all this technology that Hassan was talking about very accessible to the end user, right? And at SketchPro, actually, our mission is to democratize access to all this technology in a delightful user interface where people can interact with SketchPro like it was their assistant. So I think there will be an adoption of AI into the world of design and architecture, and but I do think it has to be extremely easy to use, right? It has to feel like you're talking to the assistant. And in terms of other adoption as well, like it's going to go all the way from the design process to like what Al is doing to all the construction documents. Even maybe applying for permits for you, right? So it's SketchPro, or not even just SketchPro, but all these AI tools are going to start performing tasks. So I don't think necessarily a lot of people will lose their jobs. I think jobs will change and adapt to this as well, right? Where, the job in architect will not be to, spend 10 hours on building a Revit model, right? It'll be communicating more with clients, right? And the ideal here, especially for a company like SketchPro, is we're not replacing the architect or designer, we're augmenting their abilities and give them more bandwidth to take on more projects, increase their sales, right? So I don't see this as a replacement, it's an augmentation of the existing designer.
Yeah, for sure. Great, thank you. Al, what do you think?
So from my side, I think ChatGPT with OpenAI set a new record and benchmark that this never happened before with any product in all the time, So 100 million users in less than 2 months. No other product could do that before. So that's the reason why is it's very easy to use. One of the reasons is, wow, it's very powerful tool, but the learning curve is less than a minute. Like less than a minute, you can open it and anybody with any age can start uh, exploring and using it and get some efficiency out. And the same thing gonna happen with architecture. The products that is built on based on AI is going to be very easy to adopt for architects, and architects and engineers are one of the slowest adoption people because the way we've done in school and the way that we need to invest time in our softwares is very hard to switch from one software to another software. I know architects that are still using their hand designing buildings. So the older generation never wanted to change it because they invested a lot to be able to draw and design very well. So AI gonna change it and make it accessible for anybody in any age group and any knowledge group to start using this software and adopt it easily. So I think the adoption going to be very fast. I think adoption is faster than products at this time. Like I have hundreds of clients asking, okay, can you do this? Can you do that now? I said, okay, slow down. This takes time to engineer and build it. Which for example, Drams, the CRM tool, we had a very hard time to onboard people and teach them how to use the software and ask them to, okay, you need to use it this way. And come back to Hassan's point for job loss. Yes, I agree. The job type gonna be different. I think the low-level drafting work's gonna be kind of vanish or not gonna be there anymore in 5 to 10 years, but it's gonna be more access. For example, we in Drams and both blueprints, we have a plan to bring the young architects and do the work because we are not a architecture firm on these two technology firms. So we want to have young designers can come and create the stuff and hand it to next architect, which they're going to work kind of for us, but for the client. So it's going to be a huge job opportunity, which is going to be as easy as like you just go and sign up on Upwork or some software. You get projects back to back as much as that you want. So I think the job force is going to be different and it's going to be a lot more work and a lot of more design work happen in this field.
For sure. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. We're almost out of time. So I'd like to thank our three amazing panelists today. Thanks for sharing your experience and insight. And special thanks to our audience for being with us today. We all learned a lot about design and AI. So the video will be saved on our YouTube channel. We hope to see you again at our next event. Thank you again and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank
Bye,
you for
everyone.
having
Thank
us.
you,
Thank
everybody.
you for having us.
Bye.
Really appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Take
Have a
care.
good day.